There's a silence that comes when everything you once leaned on is no longer there. No phone ringing, no calendar full of tasks, no letters in the mailbox, just silence and the sound of your own breath, shallow, uncertain, echoing in a space you barely recognize as your life. I remember the morning I realized I had nothing left. No money, no job, no future that made any sense. But worse than all that, I had no belief in myself. I wasn't just broke. I wasn't just unemployed. I was hollow. People talk about rock bottom like it's a moment, like it's one bad night, one wrong choice, one last drink. But I'll tell you the truth. Rock bottom isn't one moment. It's many moments stacked silently on top of each other until the weight of pretending finally cracks you open. And that's where I found myself. Alone, tired, angry, not at the world, but at myself. I had burned bridges I didn't mean to burn, pushed people away I should have held close. And worst of all, I had lied to myself so many times. I didn't even know what truth felt like anymore. I didn't cry, not at first, because when a man has been numb for long enough, even sadness stops showing up. But there was something worse than sadness. Emptiness. The kind of emptiness where nothing feels real. Not your past, not your future, not even your own voice. I remember sitting on the edge of a bed I didn't own, in a room I was only borrowing, and asking one question in the dark. What am I now? Not what do I do? Not what should I fix? Just this. If everything I thought made me valuable is gone, then what's left of me? And the answer for a long time was, I don't know. But what I would come to realize was that not knowing, that moment of nothing, wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because sometimes life has to strip you of everything, so you can finally face the only thing that matters. Who you really are when there's nothing left to prove. That's what the story is about. Not success, not money, not applause, but the truth I learned in the silence of a life that had fallen apart. When you hit the bottom, the first thing most men want to do is climb back to the top. We panic, we scramble, we say to ourselves, I just need to get my job back, my reputation, my rhythm, then I'll feel like myself again. But what if the man you were was never the man you were meant to be? See, I thought if I could just go back to the old version of me, then everything would feel right again. But life doesn't work like that. Rock bottom doesn't exist to send you backward. It exists to make sure you never go back. Because the truth is, the first thing I had to let go of wasn't my mistakes. It wasn't my past. It wasn't my failures. The first thing I had to let go of was my false identity, that image I'd been holding together with ego and performance, the version of me who chased praise, but couldn't look himself in the mirror, the man who was so busy doing that he forgot how to be. That identity felt safe, but it was killing me. Told me I had to earn love, that rest was weakness, that perfection was the price of worth. And that's the lie most people are living today, smiling on the outside, achieving everything they thought they wanted, but hollow on the inside. Letting go of that version of myself was like peeling off armor I'd worn for years. It hurt. It left me feeling exposed. It made me question everything I thought I knew. But beneath that shell was a quiet voice, a smaller, gentler voice that said, now we can begin. It was the voice I had silenced for years, the one that knew who I really was, the one that wasn't impressed by applause, the one that didn't care about status or salary, only truth. Letting go of who I was pretending to be was the hardest thing I've ever done, because it meant killing off the illusion. But you can't heal while protecting the version of yourself that broke you. You can't grow while clinging to a mask. And so I let it go, piece by piece, layer by layer, not all at once, but enough to finally breathe. And in that breath, I heard the question again, what now? This time, I had an answer. There wasn't a lightning strike, no vision, no music swelling in the background, just a quiet morning, with stale air, a bitter taste in my mouth, and a soul that felt like it had been chewed up and spit out by life. I sat on the edge of a bed that wasn't mine, with clothes I hadn't washed in a week, and a mind spinning with one question: is this it? Is this all that's left of me? A shell of a man, ashamed of his past, afraid of his future, and numb in the present. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have hope. But that morning, I made a decision, a small one. I decided to live differently, not bigger, not louder, not more successful, just differently. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I just knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing because it wasn't working. And more than that, it was killing me slowly. So I started small. So small it almost felt laughable. I got up, pulled the blanket straight, tucked the corners, and made the bed. That's it. That was my rebellion. That was my first step. Because when your life feels like it's fallen apart, you don't rebuild it with grand gestures. You rebuild it with decisions. And the decision to live differently wasn't about achieving something new. It was about becoming someone real. That one small act told me, you still have some control. That even if I couldn't fix everything today, I could fix this. And that one act became a habit. That habit became a rhythm. That rhythm became the foundation of the man I was becoming. But I didn't just want to live differently on the outside. I wanted to think differently, feel differently, believe differently. So I picked up a book, then another, then a notebook and a pen. And I began writing things I didn't have the courage to say out loud. Thoughts, regrets, prayers, dreams I had buried so deep I'd forgotten they were mine. That day, with nothing but a bed, a book, and a pen, I started becoming human again. And the beautiful part? No one clapped. No one noticed. There were no fireworks, just breath and stillness and a quiet kind of dignity that comes when a man finally stops running from himself and chooses to meet his own eyes in the mirror and not look away. You hear the word success and your mind goes straight to the usual list. Money, position, respect, recognition, status. That's what I used to think too. I chased it like a man stalked. And when I caught it, even for a moment, I thought I had finally made it. But let me tell you what no one else will. Success means nothing if you hate the man living inside it. You can wear a suit, drive a fine car, walk into a room and shake hands like a king, and still go home feeling like an imposter, empty, disoriented, alone in a world that claps for your mask, but ignores your soul. I know the version of success. I've lived it. I've stood in rooms full of people and felt lonelier than I ever did on the cold floor of my lowest days. That's when I realized I had to redefine what success meant for me, because the old definition had been handed to me by broken men chasing broken dreams. So I asked myself, what if success isn't out there, but in here? What if it's not about getting more, but becoming less divided inside? What if it's the peace you feel when you keep a promise to yourself, when you wake up and show up for your own life without needing an audience? What if it's the strength to forgive yourself for the things no one else knows about? I used to think success was built in boardrooms and bank accounts. Now I know real success is built in silence, in habits, in healing, in the quiet decision to live with integrity. Even when no one's watching, it's built every time you do the hard thing instead of the easy one. Every time you stop running from yourself. Every time you make peace with your past without dragging it into your future. Success, I learned, isn't about becoming somebody. It's about finally becoming yourself. And if that doesn't fit the world's idea of success, good. That means you're finally on the right track. People always want to know, what was the breakthrough? What was the turning point? What was the one thing that finally pulled you out? And I used to struggle with how to answer, because there wasn't a miracle, no big opportunity, no savior knocking at my door. But the more I looked back, the more I realized There was one moment that split my life into before and after. It was the moment I decided to stop blaming the world and start taking full responsibility for the man I had become. That sounds simple, I know, but I want you to sit with it for a second. Not just admitting that I'd made mistakes, but accepting that everything in my life, good or bad, was shaped by my own decisions. That was the shift. That was the earthquake beneath the surface. Not some life hack, not some step-by-step strategy. Just a man, broken, tired, and done pretending, who said, if I created this mess, then I can create something better. And that kind of ownership, it doesn't feel good at first. It stings, because it means there's no one left to blame. No more excuses to hide behind. No more pointing fingers at your past, your parents, your circumstances, your boss, your bad luck. Just you, and the mirror, and the truth. But here's the beauty of that truth. If you caused it, you can change it. And that realization lit a fire in me that no motivational video ever could. From that moment on, I started seeing every small choice as a vote for the man I wanted to become, or a vote to stay the same. I started asking myself simple questions. Does this decision make me stronger or weaker? Does this habit build the future or bury it? Would the man I respect do this or walk away? I didn't get it right every time. Of course I didn't, but I was aware. I was awake. And that awareness, that simple act of taking full ownership, was the one thing that changed everything. He gave me my power back. He gave me my voice. He gave me a reason to start again. If you're still lost, still drifting, still staring at the ceiling wondering what the hell went wrong, then let me talk to you. Not as a speaker, not as a man who wrote books, not even as OG Mandino. Let me talk to you as someone who has been there. Because I know how loud the silence gets. I know how hard it is to convince yourself to care when nothing seems to care about you. I know how heavy shame can feel when you've disappointed everyone, especially yourself. So if that's where you are right now, let me say something you probably haven't heard in a while. You're not broken. You're bruised. You're exhausted. You're probably carrying pain that no one else can see. But you are not broken, and you are not beyond repair. You don't need a miracle. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to wait until next year or next Monday. What you need is to stop running from yourself and take the smallest step back toward yourself. That's it. You don't have to figure out your purpose today. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need a reason to believe that your life is still worth showing up for. And I'll give you one, because it is. You're still breathing, which means you're not done. You're not a lost cause. You're not too far gone. You're not the sum of your worst decisions. You're a man with more to write. And if you stay here, if you listen to that whisper in your chest instead of the noise in your head, you'll hear what I heard in my darkest hour. You're still here, and that means you still matter. So no, I don't need you to be perfect. I don't even need you to be strong. I just need you to take one honest step forward, even if it's small, even if it's shaky, because one step can become a habit, and a habit can become a rhythm, and that rhythm can become a life. And if I found my way back, you can too. When I let go of everything, I thought I'd feel empty. I thought I'd feel like a failure. I thought I'd feel like I had lost. But strangely, I felt free. No more pretending. No more proving. No more chasing a life that looked good from the outside, but left me hollow on the inside. What remained wasn't the man I had built for the world. It was the man I had buried beneath it. He didn't need applause. He didn't need to win every battle. He didn't need to impress strangers or defend his past. He just needed to live true, to speak honestly, to walk forward without the weight of shame on his back. And that man, the one who rose from nothing, is who I am today, not because I rebuilt my career, not because I published a book, not because I stood on stages, but because I finally became the kind of man who can look himself in the mirror and say, I know who you are, I see what you've been through, and I'm proud of you for not quitting. That's real success. That's the gold no one sees. That's the treasure you can't buy, because it's earned in silence, in struggle, in small acts of courage repeated over time. So if you're still carrying too much, if your hands are full of things you think you need, titles, approval, the right words, the perfect comeback, put it all down, let it go, and ask yourself one simple question. Who could I become if I stopped trying to be someone else? The man I became wasn't the man I planned to be. He was the man I needed to be, and the only way I found him was by losing everything else. So if you're in that place right now, if you're standing in the ruins of what you thought your life would be, good, because now you're finally free to build the life you were always meant to live.